i dobrodošli na koncert Sem Rotmana. Dobrodošli u Baptističku crkvu Mačkovec i doista nam je zadovoljstvo sve vas pozdraviti u ovoj našoj zgradi. Jedan poseban pozdrav našoj gradonačelnici, gospođi Ljerkici Vidini. Drago mi da ste sa nama. Koncert Sem Rotmana smo imali prilike slušati 2002. godine u Centru za kulturu Čakovec, također 2014. godine i zadovoljstvo nam je da je on ovu europsku turneju 250 godina rođenja Ludwiga van Beethovena uključio u toj europskoj turneji i Međimurje i grad Čakovec. I vjerujem da ovaj koncert je poseban za nas, obzirom da je on prvi put ovdje i vjerujem da će biti jedno veliko uživanje. I ja unaprijed zahvaljujemo gospodinu Ivici Horvatiću koji će ga prevoditi i molim jedan veliki pljesak, gospodin Sem Rotman.
Thank you very much.
Hvala vam lijepo.
It's an honor to be here tonight.
Stvarno mi je čast biti ovdje večeras.
I'm glad you are here.
I drago mi je da ste i vi došli.
This is my third time in Croatia.
Ovo mi je treći puta da sam u Hrvatskoj.
And my third time of having a concert in Mačkovec.
I treći puta da imam koncert u Mačkovcu.
So I'm happy to be back.
I stvarno mi je drago da sam se vratio.
I was supposed to come to Croatia in May of 2020.
Trebao sam biti u Hrvatskoj u svibnju 2020. godine.
And then COVID.
I onda je izbio COVID.
So then we wanted to have it in May of 2021.
Onda smo to htjeli napraviti u svibnju 2021.
More COVID.
I opet COVID.
Then May of 2022.
I u svibnju 2022.
And it was so with COVID.
I onda je bilo tako s
But here
COVIDom.
we are 2 years and 4 months later.
I evo nas 2 godine i 4 mjeseca kasnije.
And Beethoven is 251.
I od Beethovena je prošlo 251 godina.
His birthday is in December.
Njegov rođendan je u prosincu.
So we're still having all Beethoven.
Još uvijek večera sviramo sve od Beethovena.
My favorite composer.
Moj najdraži kompozitor.
So I hope you have a program.
Nadam se da imate programe.
Because I will refer a lot to the program.
Zato jer ću govoriti o ovim stvarima koje su u programu.
So the first piece on the program.
Prva skladba u vašem programu
is the first piece Beethoven ever wrote for the piano.
Je prva skladba koju je Beethoven uopće napisao za klavir.
He was 25 years old.
Imao je 25 godina.
And it's in 4 parts.
Ima 4 dijela.
The first is lively.
Prvi je živahan.
The second is slow, very beautiful.
Drugi je polagan,
The
vrlo
third
lijep.
is a little dance.
Treći je mali ples.
And the fourth is very fast.
I četvrti dio je vrlo brz.
When he played this piece,
kad je svirao ovu skladbu,
music changed forever in one night.
U jednoj noći glazba se u potpunosti promijenila.
Music was entertainment.
Glazba je bila zabava.
Not to Beethoven.
Ali ne i za Beethovena.
It was the power of the human heart.
Za njega to je bila moć ljudskog srca.
Nobody heard music this dramatic or intense.
Niko nije bio sposoban čuti glazbu tako intenzivno kao on.
You can see on the program it's dedicated to a man named Franz Joseph Haydn.
U programu možete pročitati da je skladba posvećena Francu Jozefu Haydnu.
Yeah, he was a great composer.
On je bio isto veliki kompozitor.
He taught Beethoven for a while.
Neko vrijeme je poučavao Beethovena.
And so he thanks him.
I on mu zahvaljuje.
You taught me and I thank you for your help and I dedicate this piece to you.
Ti si me poučavao, ja ti zahvaljujem i ovu skladbu posvećujem tebi.
So the first piece for the piano by Beethoven in 4 parts.
Prva skladba Beethovena za klavir u 4 dijela.
Thank you very much.
Hvala vam lijepo.
So 18 months after Beethoven played this piece,
18 mjeseci nakon što je Beethoven odsvirao ovu kompoziciju,
something would happen to Beethoven that would change his life forever.
Beethovenu se dogodilo nešto što će mu promijeniti život zauvijek.
And that is he began to go deaf.
A to je da je počeo gubiti sluh.
He began to lose his hearing.
Postao je gluh skoro.
And eventually, almost 80% of the music he wrote, he couldn't hear it.
I na koncu 80% glazbe koju je napisao nije mogao uopće čuti.
So some of the greatest music your ears will ever hear was written by a man who couldn't hear it.
Znači, neke od najboljih kompozicija koje ćete ikada čuti u životu napisao je čovjek koji ih nikada nije mogao čuti.
So I've been asked for 50 years, how can a man write music if he cannot hear it?
50 godina me već pitaju kako je moguće da neko ko ne čuje piše glazbu.
And the answer is you don't need to hear music with your ears to hear music in your head.
A odgovor je da ne morate čuti glazbu svojim ušima da bi je mogli čuti u svojoj glavi.
So I'm going to give you an example.
I daću vam primjer.
Everybody around the world knows happy birthday.
Svi diljem svijeta znaju sretan ti rođendan.
So I'm going to sing it for you.
Otpjevat ću vam je.
Happy birthday. Don't sing it.
Nemojte pjevati.
I sing it.
Ja sviram.
That's the point.
U tome je stvar.
I'm going to do it again.
Idemo opet.
Happy. I hear somebody singing it.
Još uvijek neko pjeva.
Nobody should sing it.
Niko ne smije pjevati.
I'm going to do it again.
Idemo opet.
Happy birthday. Do you hear happy birthday in your head?
Čuli ste sretan rođendan u glavi?
Yes.
Da.
So you see, you don't need to hear music with your ears
Dakle,
to hear music in your head.
ne morate čuti glazbu ušima da bi je čuli u svojoj glavi.
But this is the big difference.
Ali postoji velika razlika.
You know happy birthday because you have heard happy birthday.
Vi znate sretan rođendan zato jer ste čuli tu pjesmicu.
Beethoven heard music that nobody ever heard.
A Beethoven je čuo glazbu koju niko nikada nije čuo.
So I share all this because the next piece on your program
I ovo želim podijeliti s vama zato jer ovo je sljedeća kompozicija koja je u programu.
Beethoven wrote it while he was losing his hearing.
Beethoven ju je napisao kad je počeo gubiti sluh.
And it was very, very traumatic.
I za njega to je bilo strašna trauma.
The name of the piece is called the Pathétique.
Sonata je nazvana patetična, patetik.
Pathétique comes from a Greek word, pathos, which means suffering.
Patetik dolazi od grčke riječi patos, što znači patnja.
That's where we get the passion of Christ.
Od tud imamo Kristovu pasiju ili Kristovu muku.
The suffering of Christ.
Kristove patnje.
The pathos de Christi in Greek.
Patos Kristi na grčkom.
The suffering. And Beethoven is going through suffering.
I Beethoven ovdje prolazi kroz patnje.
Losing his hearing.
Gubi sluh.
And so in the very beginning you'll hear these painful chords.
I odmah na početku čujemo te bolne akorde.
Then the piece gets very agitated.
I onda cijela skladba postaje nekako uznemirena.
And when you see my right hand going over my left hand like this,
I kada ćete vidjeti da sviram sa desnom rukom preko lijeve ruke,
this is Beethoven having a conversation with himself.
tu Beethoven razgovara sam sa sobom.
Imagine how many times he spoke to himself, how do I write music if I cannot hear it?
I samo si probajmo zamisliti koliko puta je sam sebe pitao kako ću uopće pisati glazbu ako ne čujem ništa.
The second part you would think would be very tragic.
Drugi dio očekivali bi da će biti tragičan.
But it's absolutely one of the most beautiful pieces he wrote.
Ali radi se o jednom od najljepših kompozicija koje je napisao.
Beethoven is at peace with this situation.
Beethoven se pomirio sa situacijom kakva je.
Amazing, beautiful piece.
Prekrasan komad.
The third part is again fast.
I treći dio skladbe je ponovno, treći stavak je opet brz.
And at the end it ends up with Beethoven hitting the piano with his fist.
I taj stavak završava time da Beethoven šakama udara po klaviru.
Now it's not literally his fist.
Nije doslovno šakama.
But these chords are hitting the piano.
Ali s tim akordima uistinu udarate po klaviru.
So, it's dedicated to a man named Prince Karl von Lichnowsky.
Vidimo da je posvećena knezu Karlu von Lichnowskom.
He was Polish,
On je bio Poljak,
he was a nobleman,
bio je plemenitaš
and he had a palace in Vienna.
i imao je palaču u Beču.
And every Friday he put on a concert.
I svakog petka organizirao bi koncert.
And Beethoven was on that concert every Friday.
I svakog petka Beethoven je svirao na tom koncertu.
So again, he thanks him
I na taj način Beethoven mu zahvaljuje.
for opening up his music to the world.
Što je njegovu glazbu približio svijetu.
So there's the pathetic sonata in the 3 parts.
Patetična sonata u 3 stavka.
Thank you.
Hvala.
You're very enthusiastic.
Stvarno ste nabrijani.
So Beethoven ended up writing 32 pieces like this, 32
Beethoven je
sonatas.
na kraju skladao 32 ovakve kompozicije, 32 sonate.
It's 855 pages of piano music.
855 stranica klavirske glazbe.
So the next piece on your program is many years later.
Sljedeća kompozicija u vašem programu je nastala mnogo godina kasnije.
It is sonata number 26.
Sonata broj 26.
So he wrote 32.
Napisao je 32.
This is near the end.
Ovo je već skoro pri kraju.
And to understand the piece, you have to see who it's dedicated to.
Da bi razumjeli kompoziciju, moramo vidjeti kome je posvećena.
It's dedicated to a man named the Archduke Rudolf Rainer.
Posvećena je nadvojvodi Rudolfu Raineru.
He was the son of the Emperor of Austria.
On je bio sin austrijskog cara
And he loved classical music.
i on je volio klasičnu glazbu.
And he saw that Beethoven was Beethoven.
I on je vidio da je Beethoven u stvari
He
Beethoven.
was much younger than Beethoven.
Bio je puno mlađi od Beethovena.
And this is what he said to Beethoven.
I evo što je rekao Beethovenu.
You write music
Ti piši glazbu,
and I'll pay all your bills.
a ja ću ti platiti sve račune.
You don't teach.
Ne trebaš
Don't
poučavati,
teach at a university.
ne trebaš na sveučilištu biti,
You just write music.
samo piši glazbu.
And we are to thank this man who gave us all this music of Beethoven.
I ovom čovjeku trebamo zahvaliti što imamo ovu svu Beethovenovu glazbu.
14 of the greatest pieces Beethoven ever wrote are dedicated to him.
14 najvećih kompozicija koje je Beethoven napisao posvećene su upravo ovom čovjeku.
So in May of 1809,
U svibnju 1809. godine
Napoleon invaded Austria.
Napoleon je izvršio invaziju na Austriju.
And the emperor wanted to take his family and his government out of Austria for security.
I car je htio odvesti svoju obitelj i svoju vladu van iz Austrije na sigurno.
And Beethoven asked the Archduke, please don't leave.
A Beethoven je preklinjao nadvojvodu da ne odlazi.
So on your program, this is called the Farewell Sonata.
Znači, u vašem programu piše da je ovo oproštajna sonata.
In German, the word is Lebewohl.
Na njemačkom to je riječ Lebewohl.
And Lebewohl is when you say goodbye to somebody and you never expect to see them again.
A Lebewohl na njemačkom znači da nekome kažeš s Bogom i više ga ne očekuješ ikada više vidjeti.
And over the first 3 notes of the piece,
I nakon prve 3 note u ovoj skladbi,
Beethoven wrote the words Lebewohl.
iznad prve 3 note napisao je Lebewohl.
And you'll keep hearing these 3 notes.
I te 3 note čuju se u cijeloj skladbi.
In my right hand,
S desnom rukom,
my left
sa
hand.
lijevom rukom.
The piece gets fast.
I skladba postaje brza.
Beethoven is in my right hand.
Beethoven mi je u desnoj ruci,
The Archduke in the left hand.
nadvojvoda u lijevoj.
And they're yelling at each other.
I oni viču jedan na drugog.
They're arguing.
Raspravljaju.
Beethoven says something, the Archduke answers.
Beethoven nešto kaže, a nadvojvoda odgovara.
He is trying to convince him not to leave.
Pokušava ga uvjeriti da ne ode.
Now you may say, of course, he was paying all of his bills,
A vi ćete reći, pa naravno, plaćao mu je sve račune,
but not for 10 years.
ali 10 godina već ne.
Beethoven was very successful,
Beethoven je bio vrlo uspješan,
very famous.
vrlo poznat,
He was a legend.
postao je legenda.
And he told the Archduke, I don't need your money, I need your friendship.
I rekao je nadvojvodi, ne trebam više tvoj novac, trebam tvoje prijateljstvo.
And this man helped Beethoven through many, many difficulties.
I taj čovjek pomogao je Beethovenu prebroditi mnoge poteškoće.
At the end of the first part,
Na kraju prvog dijela,
my right hand goes to the top of the piano,
desna ruka odlazi na jednu stranu
my left
klavira,
hand goes to the bottom of the piano,
a lijeva na dno klavira.
and they separate.
i odvajaju se.
They separate physically and musically.
Odvajaju se tjelesno i glazbeno.
It's very magical.
Stvarno je čaroban trenutak.
The second part is called the absence.
Drugi stavak zove se odsutnost.
This was written while the Archduke was gone.
I to je bilo napisano kad je nadvojvoda već otišao.
And sometimes you only hear Beethoven's right hand
I
all by
ponekad
himself.
čujete samo desnu ruku Beethovena gdje govori nešto sam se.
Then in January of 1810,
I onda u siječnju 1810. godine,
9 months later,
9 mjeseci kasnije,
the Archduke came back to Vienna.
nadvojvoda se vraća u Beč.
And you'll hear it.
I to ćete čuti.
They run to each other.
Potrčali su jedan prema
They
drugom.
embrace.
Zagrlili se.
It is happiness, happiness, happiness
Samo sreća, sreća, sreća.
to see his friend again.
Što je ponovno susreo se sa svojim prijateljem.
So this is a very personal piece.
Ovo je vrlo osobni komad.
The farewell,
S Bogom,
the absence,
odsutnost
the return,
i ponovni susret.
dedicated to the Archduke
Posvećeni nadvojvodi
Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Thank you. Well, the last piece is very short, only 5 minutes long.
Hvala vam. Posljednja skladba je vrlo kratka, svega 5 minuta.
But before I play the last piece, I'd like to share a little bit about myself.
Ali prije nego vam odsviram posljednju skladbu, htio bih vam reći nešto o sebi.
And my story really begins with my parents.
Moja priča u stvari započinje s mojim roditeljima.
My father was born in Romania in 1905.
Moj otac rodio se u Rumunjskoj 1905. godine.
My mother was born in Bratislava, at that time Czechoslovakia, in 1915.
A mama se rodila u Bratislavi, u tadašnjoj Čehoslovačkoj 1915. godine.
And they were both very religious Orthodox Jews.
I oboje su bili vrlo pobožni ortodoksni Židovi.
The Orthodox Jews are the strictest Jews that follow the Jewish faith.
I ortodoksni Židovi su najpredaniji Židovi koji slijede židovsku vjeru.
And they left Europe because of one person,
A Europu su napustili zbog jednog čovjeka,
Adolf Hitler.
zbog Adolfa Hitlera.
If they stayed in Europe, they both would have been killed.
Da su ostali u Europi, vjerojatno oboje bi poginuli.
11 months after my father left Romania,
11 mjeseci nakon što je otac napustio Rumunjsku,
the Nazis came to his part of Romania
nacisti su došli u njegov dio Rumunjske
and killed 10,000 Jews.
i pobili su 10.000 Židova.
Two of them were my grandparents,
I dvoje od tih ljudi su bili njegovi roditelji.
my father's parents.
Roditelji mog oca.
So my parents left Europe and ended up like a lot of Jews in South America.
I moji roditelji napustili su Europu i kao mnogi Židovi završili u Južnoj Americi.
1940 to 1950.
Od 1940. do 1950.
I had a brother and a sister.
Imam brata i sestru
My mother was pregnant with me.
i mama je nosila mene.
And in 1950, my father got permission to bring his family to the United States.
I 1950. tata je dobio odobrenje da može sa obitelji ući u Sjedinjene Države.
And I was born after they came to the United States in October of 1950.
I ja sam se rodio nakon što su došli u Sjedinjene Države u listopadu 1950.
And I was raised in a very religious Jewish home.
I odrastao sam u vrlo pobožnoj židovskoj obitelji.
I went to public school during the day,
Tijekom dana išao sam u javnu školu
and then I went to school in the synagogue.
i onda sam poslije toga išao u školu u sinagogu.
It was called Hebrew school
Hebrejska škola,
because Jewish people speak Hebrew.
jer Židovi govore hebrejski.
So I learned Hebrew.
Tako da sam učio hebrejski.
I learned all about being Jewish.
I naučio sam kako biti Židov.
I learned many prayers.
Naučio sam mnoge molitve.
And I went to Hebrew school 5 days a week
Išao sam u hebrejsku školu 5 dana u tjednu,
for 8 years.
8 godina.
This was a big part of my life.
I to je veliki dio mog života.
My grandparents died for being Jewish.
Moji djed i baka umrli su zato što su bili Židovi.
My parents suffered for being Jewish.
Moji roditelji su patili zbog toga što su
So
bili
this
Židovi.
was very important to me.
I za mene to je bilo vrlo važno.
All my friends were Jewish.
Svi moji prijatelji bili su Židovi.
All my relatives, Jewish.
Cijela rodbina bili su Židovi.
I would pray in the morning for half an hour,
Ujutro bi molio pola sata,
and then I went to school.
onda sam išao u školu
And as I grew older, 12 years old,
i kad sam malo porastao, kad sam imao 12 godina,
I began to have a very bad mouth.
imao sam vrlo pogan jezik.
I could lie to my teachers and parents.
Naučio sam lagati roditeljima i učiteljima.
I could say curse words.
Znao sam psovati.
But I was very religious in the synagogue.
Ali sam bio vrlo religiozan i pobožan u sinagogi.
This was important to me.
Meni je to bilo važno.
And then I wasn't so religious when I left.
Ali kad sam izašao od tamo van, nisam uopće više bio pobožan.
Then when I was 17, I went to a famous music school in New York City.
Sa 17 godina otišao sam u najpoznatiju glazbenu školu u New Yorku.
Called the Juilliard School.
I ona se zove Juilliard
And I was there
škola.
5 years
I tamo sam proveo 5 godina.
and received 2 diplomas in piano.
I dobio sam 2 diplome iz klavira.
And there I met 3 students
I tamo sam upoznao 3 studenta.
who said they were devout believers in Jesus.
I oni su rekli da su oni predani vjernici u Isusa.
Every time I saw them, they were reading the Bible.
I kad god sam ih susreo, čitali su Bibliju.
This was not a religion school.
Nije to bila vjerska
It
škola,
was a music school.
glazbena škola.
And when they were together, they talked about Jesus.
I kad su bili skupa, govorili su o Isusu.
Jesus said this.
Isus je rekao ovo.
Jesus did this.
Isus je učinio ovo.
Why did he say this?
Zašto je to rekao?
They never mentioned church.
Nikad nisu govorili o crkvi,
They never mentioned Christianity.
nisu govorili o
It was
kršćanstvu,
always Jesus and Jesus and
nego
Jesus.
stalno o Isusu, Isusu i Isusu.
They heard I was a religious Jew.
I čuli su da sam ja pobožan Židov.
And they asked me two questions.
Postavili su mi dva pitanja.
They asked me if I ever read the New Testament.
Pitali su me jesi li ikad pročitao Novi Zavjet.
I told them not a word.
Rekao sam niti riječ.
It was not for the Jews, I said.
To nije za Židove, rekao sam.
I had no idea what was in it.
Nemam pojma što unutra piše.
Or if Jesus was the Messiah.
I da li sam čuo da je Isus Mesija?
The Jews are waiting for the Messiah.
Židovi čekaju Mesiju,
But he was not the hope for Jewish people.
ali on nije nada za židovski narod.
But I was very moral.
Ali bio sam jako moralan.
I never drank alcohol.
Nikad nisam pio alkohol.
Never took drugs.
Nikad se nisam drogirao.
But even though I was so moral on the outside,
Iako sam bio tako moralan izvana,
I knew I was immoral on the inside.
znao sam da sam nemoralan unutrini.
I could do many Jewish things,
Znao sam puno tih židovskih stvari,
but I was not changed.
ali nisam bio izmijenjen.
So I made a big decision.
I donio sam veliku odluku.
I decided I would read the New Testament
Odlučio sam da ću pročitati Novi Zavjet,
to know about this Jesus.
da upoznam tog Isusa.
Now, when I was practicing the piano, I practiced 10 hours every day.
I dok sam vježbao klavir, vježbao sam 10 sati svaki dan.
Not 9 hours and 45 minutes.
Ne 9 sati i
10
45
hours
minuta,
every day.
10 sati svaki dan.
I started to read the New Testament,
Počeo sam čitati Novi Zavjet
and my whole life came to a stop.
i cijeli život mi se zaustavio.
I was shocked when I read this book.
Bio sam šokiran kad sam pročitao tu
I
knjigu.
completely stopped practicing.
Potpuno sam prestao vježbati.
Here was a man, Jesus, who said of himself,
Tu sam upoznao čovjeka, Isusa, koji za sebe veli:
I am the light of the world.
ja sam svjetlo svijeta.
Wow. Here was a man, Jesus, who said of himself,
Čovjek, Isus, koji za sebe tvrdi:
I am the bread of life.
ja sam kruh života.
Jesus said of himself,
Isus za sebe veli:
nobody comes to God except through me.
niko ne dolazi k Bogu osim po meni.
If you have Jesus, you have life.
Ako imate Isusa, imate život.
If you don't have Jesus, you don't have life.
Ako nemate Isusa, nemate život.
Well, I thought he was crazy.
Mislio sam ovaj lud.
Nobody said words like this.
Niko ne govori takve riječi.
Moses or Abraham never said words like this.
Mojsije ili Abraham nikad nisu to
And
rekli.
I was going to throw away the book.
I htio sam baciti tu knjigu.
I'm going to go practice.
Idem natrag vježbati.
And then I said to myself,
I onda sam rekao sam sebi.
if Jesus is who he says he is,
I onda sam rekao sam sebi. Ako je Isus stvarno taj koji veli da je,
I better listen to him.
stvarno ga treba poslušati.
I may be making a mistake throwing this book away.
Možda mi je greška baciti tu knjigu.
And then Jesus came for sinners.
A Isus je došao za grešnike.
I was not a sinner.
Pa ja nisam grešnik.
I was very moral and religious.
Bio sam moralan, religiozan.
But he came to bring us forgiveness
Ali on je došao dati nam oproštenje
and to change us on the inside.
i promjenu unutrini.
I've played concerts in 61 different countries.
Svirao sam koncerte u 61 zemlji.
You name a country, I've been there.
Ako se sjetite neke države, ja sam tamo bio.
And it doesn't matter what your skin color is.
I nema veze kakve vam je boje koža.
It doesn't matter what your politics are.
Kakvom se politikom bavite.
It doesn't matter what language you speak.
Koji jezik govorite.
Every person in this world,
Svaka osoba na ovom svijetu.
7.5 billion people,
7,5 milijardi ljudi.
everybody in this room,
Svi u ovoj prostoriji.
we are experts at hiding things.
Svi smo stručnjaci za nešto sakriti.
The first thing man did when he disobeyed God
Prva stvar koju je čovjek učinio kad je bio neposlušan Bogu,
was to hide from God.
bio je da se sakrije od Boga.
You can hide things from your friends.
Pred prijateljima možete sakrivati
You
stvari.
can hide things from someone at work.
Možete sakrivati stvari pred kolegama na poslu.
Or hide things from your wife or husband.
ili sakrivati nešto od muža ili od žene.
But nobody hides anything from Jesus.
Ali pred Isusom nema skrivanja.
And even though I was so moral and so religious,
Iako sam bio tako moralan i tako religiozan,
I thought I could hide things from people and God.
mislio sam da mogu sakriti nešto pred ljudima i pred Bogom.
And on May 21st,
I 21. svibnja
1971,
1971. godine,
51 years ago,
prije 51 godinu,
the first time I prayed to Jesus
prvi
Christ.
put sam se molio Isusu Kristu.
And I'm going to tell you what I said.
I reći ću vam što sam mu rekao.
My name is Sam Rotman,
Zovem se Sam Rotman
and I want you, Jesus, to take over my life.
i želim da ti, Isuse, preuzmeš moj
I
život.
told him the bad words I said,
Rekao sam mu sve one loše riječi koje sam
the lies
izgovarao,
I said,
laži koje sam rekao,
the bad thoughts I had.
loše misli koje sam imao.
I didn't hide anything.
Ništa nisam sakrivao.
I finished praying.
Završio sam s
I
molitvom,
opened up my eyes,
otvorio oči
and instantly I knew that Jesus Christ completely changed me.
i tog trenutka sam znao da me Isus Krist potpuno promijenio.
He completely cleaned my mouth.
Potpuno je očistio moje usne.
I was shocked I stopped cursing.
I bio sam šokiran jer sam prestao psovati.
He cleaned my mind.
Očistio mi je misli.
And the next day I couldn't wait to tell all my Jewish friends I've been changed by the Messiah, Jesus Christ.
I sljedeći dan jedva sam čekao da svojim prijateljima Židovima velim o Mesiji, Isusu Kristu.
I've played over 3,200 concerts,
Odsvirao sam više od 3200 koncerata.
and all of my concerts are nothing,
I svi moji koncerti su ništa.
nothing
Ništa.
compared to having Jesus Christ.
U usporedbi s time da imam Isusa Krista.
Music's not the most important thing in my life.
Glazba nije najbitnija stvar u mom životu.
Jesus Christ is.
Isus Krist je
Because
najbitniji.
only Jesus can change your heart.
Jer samo Isus može izmijeniti tvoje srce.
Your friends cannot change you.
Ne mogu te prijatelji promijeniti,
A wife or husband cannot change you.
muž ili žena ne mogu te
The
promijeniti.
church cannot change you.
Crkva te ne može
The
promijeniti.
government cannot change you.
Vlada te ne može
But
promijeniti.
this is the miracle in the world.
Ali ovo je jedino pravo čudo u ovom svijetu.
Jesus Christ actually changes the human heart.
Isus Krist stvarno mijenja ljudsko srce.
And he's done it to hundreds of millions of people.
I to je učinio za stotine milijuna ljudi.
And I'm one of them.
I ja sam jedan od tih.
You know why I was Jewish?
Znate zašto sam bio Židov?
I was born Jewish.
Jer sam se rodio kao Židov.
If I was born in Egypt, I'd be a Muslim.
Da sam se rodio možda u Egiptu, bio bi musliman.
In India, a Hindu.
U Indiji bio bi Hindus.
In Thailand, a Buddhist.
Da sam se rodio na Tajlandu, bio bi budista.
99% of the world is born into a religion.
99% svijeta rađa se u neku od religija.
It's not a religion.
Ali ne radi se o
It's a
religiji,
person.
nego o osobi.
The central person of human history.
Središnjoj osobi ljudske povijesti.
You know, if you ever walk into a synagogue,
Ako ikad uđete u sinagogu,
you know what's the first thing you'll see in any synagogue?
znate koja je prva stvar koju vidite u bilo kojoj sinagogi?
The 10 Commandments.
10 zapovjedi.
The law that God gave to the Jewish people.
Zakon koji je Bog dao židovskom narodu.
You know what's the first thing you see when you walk into a church?
Znate koja je prva stvar koju vidite kad uđete u crkvu?
I call it forgiveness.
Ja to zovem oproštenje.
And there's a lot of forgiveness there.
I tu je jako puno oproštenja.
Imagine the first thing you see in a synagogue, God's law.
Prva stvar koju vidite u sinagogi, Božji zakon.
Here God is telling you, I've made a way to forgive you.
A ovdje nam Bog veli, pronašao sam način da ti oprostim.
I want to forgive you.
Želim ti oprostiti.
Ask me to forgive you.
Zatraži me da ti oprostim.
Come to me and I will forgive you.
Dođi k meni i ja ću ti oprostiti.
And I play the piano for Jesus Christ.
I ja sviram klavir za Isusa Krista.
He gave me the ears to hear the music,
Dao mi je uši da čujem glazbu,
fingers to play the music,
prste da ju mogu svirati,
mind to learn the music.
da mogu naučiti glazbu.
Jesus has never missed one of my concerts.
I Isus nije propustio niti jedan moj koncert.
Two people have never missed my concerts.
Dvoje ljudi nikad nisu propustili moj koncert.
Jesus
Isus
and me.
i ja.
And every time I give a concert
I svaki put kad sviram koncert
in a church,
u crkvi,
in a concert hall,
u nekoj koncertnoj dvorani,
with an orchestra,
s orkestrom,
he's in the front row.
on je u prvom redu.
And he says to me, Sam,
I on mi je rekao, Sam,
I'm looking forward to hearing you play for me tonight.
stvarno se radujem da ću te čuti da večeras sviraš za mene.
If I could look into each of your eyes
Kad bi mogao svima vama pogledati u oči,
I would tell you with my whole heart,
rekao bi vam iz dubine srca,
it is worth living for Jesus Christ.
isplati se živjeti za Isusa
It
Krista.
is worth living for this Jesus.
Stvarno se isplati živjeti za ovog
And you can
Isusa.
say like I did,
I možete reći poput mene,
tell him your name.
recite mu svoje ime.
My name is,
Moje ime je
and I want you, Jesus, to come into my life.
i želim da ti, Isuse, uđeš u moj život.
And he will.
I ući će.
I want you to forgive me.
Želim da mi oprostiš
And he will.
i oprostit će.
I want you to be with me and guide me.
Želim da budeš sa mnom, da me vodiš.
And he will, and he will.
I hoće, i hoće.
And he will transform your heart.
I on će preobraziti tvoje srce.
Music gives me a lot of happiness,
Glazba mi donosi puno radosti,
but not one note of music will change me.
ali niti jedna nota te glazbe neće me
I'll play
promijeniti.
40,000 notes tonight.
Večeras ću osvirati 40.000 nota.
Not one note will change me.
Niti jedna od tih nota me ne mijenja.
Jesus changed me,
Isus me je promijenio.
gave me a new life.
Dao mi je novi život.
It's worth living for him.
Isplati se živjeti za njega.
The last piece
Posljednja
will be
skladba.
done in 5 minutes.
Gotovi smo za 5 minuta.
This is a piece you've all heard,
To je skladba koju ste svi čuli.
very famous,
Poznata.
the Turkish March.
Turska koračnica.
Beethoven heard this played by some musicians in Vienna,
Beethoven je čuo neke glazbenike u Beču koji su to svirali.
and he wrote it down.
I zapisao si je.
And 20 years later, he wrote this piece.
20 godina kasnije je napisao ovu kompoziciju.
You'll hear this famous march,
Čućete ovu poznatu koračnicu
and then 6 variations,
i 6 varijacija.
and then the march again.
I onda ponovno koračnica.
Now look who it's dedicated to.
Kome je posvećena?
It's dedicated to a man named Franz Oliva.
Posvećena je Francu Olivi.
You know who he was?
Znate ko je Franc
He
Oliva?
was Beethoven's accountant.
On je bio Beethovenov knjigovođa.
He took care of his finances.
On je brinuo o njegovim financijama.
He was his tax man.
On je brinuo o njegovim porezima.
And he served Beethoven for over 20 years.
I bio je u službi kod Beethovena preko
And
20
he
godina.
decided to dedicate this piece to his accountant.
I on je odlučio ovu kompoziciju posvetiti svome knjigovođi.
So do your job well.
Dakle, dobro obavljajte svoj posao
You never know when someone's going to dedicate something to you.
i nikad ne znate kad će vam netko nešto posvetiti.
So the last piece,
Posljednja
the
skladba,
famous Turkish March,
poznata turska koračnica,
Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Come on up here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hvala vam
I
lijepa.
want to, go ahead. No, I want to thank the church for renting this wonderful piano.
Želim zahvaliti crkvi što je iznajmila ovaj prekrasni klavir.
This is a tremendous piano,
Odličan klavir.
and thank you for them to rent this and to have a great piano to hear the great Beethoven.
I zahvaljujem njima da su iznajmili ovaj prekrasan klavir, da ste mogli slušati prekrasnog
I want to
Beethovena.
introduce my wife.
Želim vam predstaviti svoju suprugu.
This is my third time in Croatia.
Ovo mi je treći put da sam u Hrvatskoj,
This is her first time.
a njoj prvi put.
Her name is Deborah.
Zove se Debra.
And we have been married 49 years.
I oženjeni smo 49 godina.
We have 3 children,
Imamo 3 djece
and we have 5 grandchildren.
i 5 unučadi.
So we've had a wonderful time here for almost 2 weeks in Croatia.
I stvarno smo uživali evo već 2 tjedna ovdje u Hrvatskoj.
I have a table in the lobby,
Imam svoj stol tamo u
and I
holu.
have some recordings.
Imam sa sobom snimke.
One is Beethoven,
Jedna je Beethoven,
my favorite composer.
moj najdraži skladatelj.
5 major works,
5 glavnih njegovih dijela,
including the whole Moonlight Sonata.
uključujući cijelu Mjesečevu sonatu.
Then there is recording of the French composer Debussy.
Imam i snimku francuskog kompozitora Debussija.
He wrote a famous piece, Clair de Lune.
Čuli ste sigurno isto za Mjesečevu
Yes,
sonatu.
a very
Njegovu.
delicate recording.
Vrlo delikatna
All
skladba.
the stress goes out of you.
Iz vas će izaći sav stres.
And then there's a DVD
Imam i DVD
of my whole story.
sa mojom cijelom pričom.
It's me speaking
Ja govorim,
and playing,
sviram
and you watch it on television.
i možete to gledati na televiziji.
Each of the recordings are 100 kuna,
Svaka od tih snimki košta 100 kuna,
but the autograph is free.
ali moj potpis gore je besplatan.
About 25 years ago, I gave a concert in America,
Prije 25 godina održao sam jedan koncert u
and
Americi
I said, tonight the autograph is $15,
i rekao sam večeras je moj potpis $15
and
košta,
the CD is free.
a CD-i su besplatni.
And afterwards, a man came up to me,
I poslije toga došao mi jedan čovjek
and he said, I would like a CD
i rekao mi je htio bih jedan CD
with no autograph.
bez potpisa.
I will not tell you what I said to him,
Neću vam reći što sam mu rekao,
but what a wonderful audience.
ali stvarno ste bili divna publika.
And thank you to the mayor. Yes.
Zahvaljujemo gradonačelnici.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Hvala što ste došli
Very
večeras.
special. And I hope you enjoyed the concert. I'll be in the lobby.
Uživali ste u koncertu i ja ću biti u holu.
And thank you to a great translator. Thank you for your kindness.
Hvala vam na vašoj ljubaznosti.
God bless each of you.
Neka vas sve Bog blagoslovi.
Thank you.
Hvala.
Svima se najljepše zahvaljujemo, želim vam Božji blagoslov. Uvijek ste dobro došli na naša bogoslužja. Hvala vam što ste bili večeras. Lijepi pozdrav našem gradu. Laku noć.